Thanks again for joining us on our journey towards a simpler, more sustainable life. We hope that through these videos you will learn something and hopefully get inspired to join us or continue on your journey for a simpler, more sustainable life. In the last video, I was standing in the snow talking about an expansion of our vegetable garden. We were going to be adding a food forest, and that still is the plan. Well, it is technically no longer winter, although there still is some snow on the ground, but it's a few days past the beginning of spring, and I can tell it for a lot of reasons. And the calendar is the last on the list. For one thing, in the evening, we have a deafening chorus of frogs and crickets that remind us that it's spring. Also, the mallard ducks. We've not seen them yet, but we hear them in our back 40. They are very noisy and make it clear that it's spring. Some of the trees are starting to bud, and perhaps what's most obvious to me that makes it spring is I am so eager to get outside and get to work and get gardening. One of the key elements of a food forest in this area is a fence. We just have lots of other critters that would like to share things with us, and so it's mandatory to have a fence. Well, over the winter I started looking for the timbers, the fence posts that I typically have purchased for that purpose, and to the extent that they were available, they were ridiculously expensive, and some of the ones that I bought over the years are not even available anymore. Lumber prices in general have skyrocketed, so I've got enough Scotch, Irish, and Scandinavian blood in me to want to do it as economically as possible, so I shifted my research, and it turns out some of the wood that we normally would not think had any practical use just might work for fence posts. So a couple of months ago we went out in the snow and cut down a bunch of these trees. Actually not that many of them, but a few of them to give them a head start in drying. And I realized that I was going to need to facilitate their drying and also to facilitate them lasting a long time, and that meant taking the bark off. When I got the first 12-footer into the basement, when it was still quite snowy, I thought, boy, I cut off more than I can chew, literally and figuratively perhaps, because getting the bark off I realized was going to be one heck of a chore. And then I remembered something. I remembered a tool that I had researched a long, long time ago. And it's an ancient tool. I'm sure it's been around at least hundreds of years. And it's called a draw knife. And so I started researching them, thinking about buying them. And as I was doing it, I said, wait a minute, I've got one of those. And I remembered that we were helping to clear out a recently passed relative's home, and I found a draw knife. And I took it home and I fixed it up and I hung it up as decoration in my workshop, and I took it down, and here's this draw knife. And this works incredibly well to take the bark off of these trees. This particular log here I've been working on for maybe a half an hour, and I've probably got 75% of it done already. And not only does it take the bark off, but when there's a knot as well, it just quickly and easily takes that off as well. So the plan is that I'm going to take the bark off these trees, and then I'm going to leave them in the sun for as long as I can to dry out, and I will then put on some natural preservative to make them last as long as possible, and then plug them in the ground. I have a fairly specialized or personalized approach to how I put them in the ground, and I'll show that in a future video, but I've used it over the years and modified it and improved it, and it seems to work really, really well. And the idea is I'm going to have some pretty tall corner posts and maybe some tall posts in between those tall posts as well, and then shorter posts in between, with the net being I'm going to have probably about 8-foot spans between fence posts, with a total of 32 feet in one direction and 30 feet in the other direction. Our current garden is 30 by 30, so it is effectively doubling our space. So that's what we're doing. It's definitely spring here. It's not warm out. This morning it was 21 degrees. I think it's in the high 30s, low 40s right now. But as you can see, it's just so beautiful. So I can't stay inside. So again, thank you for joining us on our journey for a simpler, more sustainable life. If you like this, would you please push the button so indicating, and maybe share it and subscribe it, because we really would like to spread the word. Thank you.